We're here at the Allegheny Abortion Facility here in Pittsburgh this morning. Unfortunately, there are innocent children dying here today, and there's a number of pro-life Christians here, Catholics, Protestants, who are praying and trying to convince the women that their children are valuable and precious and that they shouldn't abort their child. And I'm here with Mary, and Mary is a young woman who has a message for any woman who is in the condition or in a situation where she's actually considering an abortion. And Mary wants to tell you why uh, having an abortion is not in your best interest. Mary?
Well, I just like to say, children are created in the image of God from the time of conception. So they're their own separate person with their own values, and God has knit them together in your womb before you even knew you were pregnant. So if we trust God and allow Him to be our provider, He's going to provide a way out for us, and we don't have to turn to things like abortion, which is child sacrifice, plain, just as honest as you can put it, that's what it is. Because we're created in the image of God from the time of conception, which means our lives should not be destroyed, even if within your body. It's not your body, but it's in your body, and it was placed there by God, and we know that He has a plan for that child, and that child will be a blessing, even if they're unexpected or they came throughout maybe a sinful behavior. Because good comes out of evil. That's how God works.
So how about for the woman herself who is in an unbelievably awkward situation? She has, financial issues. She's got personal issues. She's got health issues. What what can you say to her?
Well, I'd say that God provides for even the sparrows in the sky. How much more will He provide for us? And if you trust God, He will provide a way. And there are so many pregnancy centers and people willing to help. I mean, that's why we stand out here. I don't offer my help for nothing. I mean, I could do anything for them, for their child, and just to. I believe that we have to take people out of a culture of death. So even if they choose life, to provide for them and help them and get them out of that lifestyle, turn them into a lifestyle that leads to life and blessing.
Okay. And then finally, Mary, if somebody has had an abortion, and they are starting to maybe have second thoughts about whether they should have or not, and there's pressure to just, say, hey, don't worry about it. It was no big deal. What would you say to a woman who had an abortion, felt it was the right thing, at the time, and is trying to move on with her life? What would you say to her?
Well, I'd say that you have to acknowledge that the choice you made was wrong and it destroyed a life. And you have to acknowledge that and realize that you've sinned before a holy God in order for you to understand His grace and to walk in repentance. So and you'll never receive healing for that if you don't admit that what you did was wrong and that you weren't really a victim in the situation. And that way you can understand the grace of God and really accept it. Because when you're living in denial, it's kind of a state of pride, and God rejects the pride. He gives grace to the humble. So you should really humble yourself and admit, that without Christ we make terrible decisions. But I mean, there is forgiveness for post-abortive mothers, just like there is for anyone.
And finally, why have you chosen to live your life for God when you have to give up so much? There's so many rules, just all this sinning and feeling guilty, and why are you willing to follow God's laws in this society we live in, where pretty much people do whatever they want to do?
I guess because Christ first loved me and died for me. And it says that the whole of the law is summed up in love God and love your neighbor. So if you have that attitude and that spirit, everything just kind of follows after that. So it's not like you're always watching what you're doing and what you're thinking, because you can walk in a new life, and Christ is continuously redeeming your heart and your mind and giving you good works to walk in. It's not so much following the rules, but living in. I mean, Christ said he did not abolish the law, but in him we can live a life that fulfills the law.
And what's like? Are you rewarded for this kind of sacrifice?
Well, I would consider it a reward to walk freely with Christ. I couldn't imagine my life without that, because I know I would be tortured with guilt and fear if I didn't live for God.
And fear of what?
Fear of death and hell and things that I don't know or understand.
So do you have a desire to go to heaven? Strong desire?
Yeah.
If you had a choice of going to heaven tonight or staying on earth for another 10 years, what would it be?
I'd stay on earth for another 10 years, because I know that there's so much here that we can do, and we can glorify God in our lives. So each day we can bring glory to God and bring people to him and to know about his name. But if it was God's will for me to die today, then I suppose I'd die today, and I wouldn't have a problem with that, because, hey, I get to be with Christ.
So the next 10 years, you're saying there's a lot to do. What would you say would be number one priority for you in the next 10 years?
Preach the gospel and bring this culture into conflict with the reality of abortion, which is a gospel issue. So it's like you do both at the same time. Rescue those being led away to the slaughter.
Amen. Well, thank you, Mary.